Well, it looks like we've got the rarest of things. A win for liberty in Canada. Here's the headline. Court rules Liberals' use of Emergencies Act was unjustified and unreasonable. So the Emergencies Act was invoked because of the peaceful protest against the jab mandates in Canada. And this was a protest that the Liberal government absolutely refused to engage with in any way, and instead immediately went on the attack and demonized them. Of course, the left-wing media in Canada immediately took the hint and started demonizing them as well as being financed by shadowy, far-right American fascists or something. Or maybe it was Putin. Or maybe it was an insurrection. And don't you know that they tried to burn down an apartment building? Oh, it turned out that wasn't true. Oh, well, don't you know that they were anti-Semitic? Oh, well, turns out that wasn't true either. Well, at the very least, you have to understand that the word freedom is now a far-right dog whistle. And we know that because lunatics told us. Let's go to the ruling itself from the judge here. He says, I have concluded that the decision to issue the proclamation, that's the Emergencies Act, does not bear the hallmarks of reasonableness, justification, transparency, and intelligibility, and was not justified in relation to the relevant factual and legal constraints that were required to be taken into consideration. And this is unusual in Canada, as the judiciary seems to be usually falling all over itself to defer to the government, or at least a Liberal government anyway. The Liberal government's decision to invoke the Emergencies Act in response to the 2022 Freedom Convoy protests was unreasonable, unjustified, and violated the charter the federal court has ruled. In a lengthy ruling published Tuesday, federal court justice Richard Mosley found that though the Freedom Convoy protests in early 2022 were causing harm to Canada's economy, trade, and commerce, they did not rise to the level of a threat to national security as defined by law. Mosley's ruling stems from 4 legal challenges by civil liberty groups, including the Canadian Civil Liberties Association and the Canadian Constitution Foundation. The groups argued that the Liberals exceeded their powers when they invoked the act on February 14, 2022, in response to ongoing Freedom Convoy blockades in Ontario and Alberta. So, of course, the Prime Minister didn't immediately confront the situation personally. Instead, he sent out a human sloth hybrid, who is also the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada.
The decision seems to single out some of your choices on freezing bank accounts and credit cards as being part of the reason where it's unreasonable in terms of the measures taken by the government. You defended those when you announced them at the time. Do you have any regrets on taking that measure in the light of this decision? Would you have done it differently based on what we've seen from the federal court today?
As I said in my opening remarks, we faced, as a country and as a government, an incredibly serious threat. A threat to the public safety of many Canadians, a threat to our national security, including our national economic security. We acted to secure and protect Canada and to secure and protect the national interest. It was not an easy time. These were not easy decisions. In making our decisions and choosing to act, we worked very, very hard with all levels of government, and we were very mindful of acting in such a way that the safety, the physical safety of all Canadians involved would be preserved. I don't want to minimize the gravity of the actions we took. Neither do I want to minimize the gravity of the threat Canada faced. And to your question, I was certain, after a lot of deliberation with colleagues and many others, that we took the right decision. I was certain at the time. I was certain when I testified before Rouleau, and I remain certain today. Thank you.
And you were wrong. Just like always. We're used to it in Canada. So I guess the question is, though, what's going to happen now? And the short answer is nothing. The real value in this is just letting Canadian voters know that the Trudeau government acted unconstitutionally, that they betrayed every Canadian's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I'm not going out on a limb here when I say they will absolutely do it again if they feel it will be politically beneficial to them, which is exactly what drove the decision in the first place. And I don't think it's really played out that way. So what should really happen now is that the coalition between the Liberals and the NDP party in Canada should be dissolved. And then there should be a no confidence vote and there should be an election called. That's what should happen. But the leader of the NDP, either Trudeau's got some compromising photos of him, or he's completely incompetent, or I think that perhaps he's looking at a jump to the Liberal Party eventually because he knows that he'll never be Prime Minister as leader of the NDP. Maybe that sounds a little far-fetched, but you know what? There's been a lot of far-fetched in the last 8 years, hasn't there? But in any case, I would not expect the coalition to break before the next election. Because if it hasn't happened yet, it's not going to happen for whatever reason. But anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.